Greetings, namaste. My name is Nayaswami Devarshi. I think I know everybody here, so you know my name. And this evening I'm going to talk about something we don't often address directly. We talk about it almost every time we have a satsang, but I want to talk directly about who and what we are as divine bliss. Yoganandaji talked about it as samadhi bliss. And it is the goal of everything, it is who and what we are. And so this is why Yoganandaji said, memorize and read every day my poem Samadhi. Because if we don't have the goal and the recognition always before us, we just keep forgetting. And how often we forget. How many of us today, as a sample day, forgot the entire day who and what we are as one with divine bliss, or we forgot the goal, or we kept forgetting over and over again. And it's almost a form of dementia or insanity that we keep forgetting this, because it's the most central truth of who and what we are. And yet we keep forgetting. And as yogis, as people who have made spiritual gains, and don't underestimate the spiritual progress you've made in past lifetimes, this lifetime, to even be here seeking so sincerely. And yet, even then, we keep forgetting who and what we are. And so, it's important to keep the goal and who and what we are always in front of us, as a reminder. And it is one with God as divine bliss. Again, this is why Yoganandaji said, read my poem Samadhi. And in there he talked about it as samadhi bliss. And so it's helpful to talk about Shankya philosophy, which is the delusion of this world. It's all Maya. It's a dream, how to get out or why to get out. Yoga, which is the path to freedom, the way to get out. But if we can keep the goal always in front of us, reminded every single day, we are magnetically lifted up and we are magnetically drawn to it. And so, don't ever limit yourself. We are children of the infinite. We are one with divine bliss. We aren't this body, this personality. I've learned over the years from Swami Kriyanandaji, when I introduce myself, to say, my name is Nayaswami Devarshi, rather than I am Nayaswami Devarshi, because I am bliss. I just have this name attached. And it's a good affirmation and a good reminder. I would highly recommend it. Not that you all go around saying, hi, my name is Nayaswami Devarshi. That would be kind of weird if you all did that, but don't ever identify with the personality and with the name, because we are not that. And yet again, we just keep forgetting over and over and over again. And so keep the goal always in front of us. Have Yoganandaji's poem Samadhi in front of you. Remember that all the time. Now, people sometimes ask, how do I develop this intense yearning and desire for God? And I'll talk about this more towards the end. But there's two ways. One is to be around people who have that intense desire and yearning and be lifted up by their magnetism and their energy. There's another way that's very simple. That's the tried and true way, but unfortunately it's more difficult than that. And that is simply to experience enough pain and suffering. And when we experience that suffering as advanced souls, it reminds us, oh, the reason why we experience suffering is because it reminds us that we are not one with bliss, or that we forgot about it. I think it was last week Jamal talked about how animals don't show much suffering. Like dogs, they'll have a mangled leg and they'll just hop around and they won't suffer as much as a human would. And it's partly because they don't have something to compare it to that's much greater, which is divine bliss. I am willing to bet that everyone who's here now has experienced deep, profound divine bliss in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes, or you wouldn't be here. And it's that memory of having experienced it, that when we experience pain and suffering, it's a reminder that, oh, that's right, I remember now. And Swami Kriyanandaji, the way he puts it is very interesting. He says, everything is, to varying degrees of manifestation, bliss itself. The very capacity to suffer is an indication of the more refined capacity to experience bliss. Suffering comes primarily from the thought, things ought not to be like this. Inherent in suffering itself, in other words, is the thought of how things ought to be. And so the soul whispers to them, can be eventually. And so this bliss that we're trying to become one with is not just an experience. And people put too much into experiences in meditation. Even the experience of bliss is a lower state of it, because as long as there's the I experiencing bliss, this is what Yoganandaji said, is a lower level of samadhi, savikalpa samadhi. But even that, people come down from that. In fact, typically, people come from that. They fall from that because the ego is experiencing bliss and thinking, wow, I'm really, really experiencing great bliss. And there's the I there. And the highest level of samadhi is beyond condition. It's beyond condition of pain or suffering, pleasure, or whatever. It's beyond condition of any sense of I. It is actual merging in divine union with it. And this is why, again, when we experience the duality, it reminds us that, oh yes, there is a state that is beyond duality, that is oneness, unconditioned, divine bliss, union with God. I told this story this last weekend, and I'll share it again. It's an example of experiencing joy under the worst possible circumstance. And it was the story of my wife, who she had cancer, and after about 10 years of remission and up and down, it had come back, and it went into her brain. And it was so far advanced that by the time the doctors looked at it, they said she had 3 weeks to live. And they were about right. That's about how much time she had left. The whole time she was enjoying. There was just humor, joy. There was a deep inwardness, because she recognized that it's time for me to withdraw from this world and go home. But there was never even the slightest hint of pain, suffering, fear, concern. And there was many incidents, but I'll just share the one that I shared this last weekend. It was the very last time that she could stand up and walk, because it affected her balance and her vision. And in the middle of the night, she got up to go to the toilet, and as she came back, she was lurching all the way back and forth across the room from one side to the other, and I jumped up and helped her, because she was really about to harm herself. And I helped her back to lie down in bed, and as we were lying there, I just heard her laughing inwardly and quietly to herself, joyfully even, just laughing. And it was so strange to me, because this was like the worst case scenario that one could possibly think of. Disorienting, losing your body, your mind, your brain, and there was just this quiet, joyful laughter. And to give it some context, she grew up in the Soviet Union, and for the first 20 years of her life. And in the Soviet Union, one of the great skills that people have there is ballet and dancing. And as she was laughing, I wanted to know why she was laughing, what specifically she was laughing about. And I said, why are you laughing? And she just said, with a smile and a joyful laugh, she said, Russian ballet, describing her lurching back and forth, her dance coming back across the room. And again, not only was there no concern or fear, there was just joy. And it was like that the whole last 3 weeks of her life, only joy. And this is the divine bliss that is beyond condition. This is something that we can experience under all circumstances. The great saints have shown this to us. Because when we start to merge into that joy, the ego starts to dissolve. And then there is no sense of who is suffering anymore, because the ego is joy itself. And there's this recognition that this is who and what I really am. Now, it's something else that Yoganandaji or Swami Kriyanandaji talked about, which he said that the first experience of this joy is savikalpa samadhi, when we have an experience. We don't have final union, we just have an experience of it. And we all look at that experience and think, oh, that's what I want. You know, Swami Kriyanandaji said that he felt deeply, truly, that he had that experience in a past life, and that he had fallen from it. And that's surprising. How could you fall from that state? And he said something very interesting. He said, probably everybody falls from that state, because he said it's the last great temptation, because there's still ego. The ego is experiencing union with God, coming back to itself because it hasn't achieved final freedom. And it thinks, wow, that was really something. I really had a great experience. I am one with the universe, with an emphasis on I. And there's still some separation there. And it almost enhances the ego. And this is why it's inevitably even great yogis will fall to delusions that seem crazy to all of us. That it's because there is so much energy and expansion to the ego that, on a spiritual way, that it is affected by it. What Yoganandaji said about the ultimate goal, which is the state of moksha, or becoming a jivan mukta. He said the state of jivan mukta, this is Swamiji actually, the state of jivan mukta, which Master said we should all aspire to, comes when we reach the point of total inner self-offering. It's as simple as that. We cannot achieve that state of moksha without having total inner self-offering. And he implies that's all it takes. Now, the whole path of yoga is practicing that, learning how to give ourselves seva, meditation, devotion, all these things. And Swamiji says, it doesn't come until nirvikalpa samadhi, but you've got to practice these things now. The state of jivan mukta is realizing that you don't do anything. You've given your ego to him, and you know that he does everything through you. And so this thing of starting to practice this now. I have a friend in Ananda village. He's a physician and he runs our medical clinic. And he said one year he finally decided that he would go through his daily life. When he had to make a decision or a reaction to something that came to him or an event, he would ask himself, what would a jivan mukta do in this situation? And it's really a very interesting approach to life. Because what he found is that he would start getting into the consciousness of being a jivan mukta, someone who is free. And when you start acting in that way, you start to have that experience more and more. And I can say this person has a high degree of spiritual freedom. Now, I think when we hear this talk that we should start acting as a jivan mukta, see this as a real potential in our lives, I think half the people in the room are mentally saying, yes, but. And this but is like, well, yeah, maybe for this person, but I have this karma. But I can't do it, but it's too hard. But this, but that. One time Swami Kriyanandaji said in a talk about developing the type of intuition and feeling awareness that helps us to become one with God. He said, if you keep saying but, you eliminate the possibility for that time. Eliminate that word from your consciousness, from your language. Because if you say, yes, I can do this in this lifetime, and this is something that Yoganandaji said he really appreciated about being in America, because when he brought these teachings to America, Americans didn't realize how hard it was to achieve moksha in this lifetime. And so when he talked about it, Americans say, yeah, I'm going to go for it in this lifetime. Yes, I can do this. And when you're brought up in a culture of how difficult it is and what it really means, there's this thought, okay, it's yogis in the Himalayas, maybe me, but I can't do it. And so get that thought out of your mind. The Master said he appreciated that approach. Because if you get that thought out of your mind and say, yes, I can do it, and if I don't do it in this lifetime, I'm going to die trying to do it. If you have that attitude, there will be nothing holding you back. You'll be making great spiritual gains in this lifetime, simply through that attitude. But if you keep thinking, oh, it's too hard, and how can I do it? I have family, and I have this karma, and health, and this and that, then yeah, you're saying, okay, I'm not going to do it in this lifetime. But no matter where you are, you can achieve it. And if you read the lives of the great saints, it's not like they had just this really smooth sailing their whole life to moksha. It was struggle like it is for every single one of us. They had to struggle and do daily battle with their very own karma and limitation and thoughts and resistance and all these things. And yet they found freedom right where they are. Now, the way to do this is in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says to Arjuna. First Arjuna asks Krishna, he says to the Lord in the 12th chapter, between those who worship you with steadfast devotion and those who concentrate on the Absolute, which is better versed in the yoga science? And it's interesting that Krishna doesn't answer the question directly. He doesn't say it's one or the other. And he doesn't even tie the two together. He says, only adequate, he says, the Blessed Lord answered, those who, with minds fixed on me, are ever united to me in pure devotion, are in my eyes the best versed in yoga. Again, those who, with minds fixed on me, are ever united to me in pure devotion, are in my eyes the best versed in yoga. And Yoganandaji says almost exactly the same thing in Autobiography of a Yogi, when he talks about his experience of samadhi bliss, the experience in cosmic consciousness. He gives one sentence about how to achieve that. And it's exactly what the Lord Krishna says. Yoganandaji says, only adequate enlargement by yoga practice and devotional bhakti can prepare the mind to absorb the liberating shock of omnipresence. It comes with a natural inevitability to the sincere devotee. And that's a beautiful promise. It comes with a natural inevitability to the sincere devotee. And it is simply yoga and devotion, meditation and devotion. And simplify it. And if we simplify it, then we start to eliminate the complexity of the mind saying, yeah, but what about this detail and this complexity and this karma? Simplify it, and it will come with a natural inevitability. Now, it's interesting that Yoganandaji often talked about these two aspects of God and of feeling, which is devotion or love and bliss. And it's interesting when he talked about devotion and bliss, he compared the two. And he actually said that bliss is greater and bliss is higher. And the reason is, he said, it is better to seek God primarily for bliss and only secondarily for his love. For in love there is the possibility that one's feelings may become too personal, rather than expansive outwardly to infinity. And in fact, really it's both in the end. Swami Kriyanandaji wrote that the first manifestation of bliss is love, is devotion. And as Yoganandaji and Krishna said, we get there through devotion. But devotion is not the end. And you'll find that when you have a deep devotional experience, there's a tendency to personalize it, and there's also still some separation, because it's I and thou. Bliss, and it's limiting to some extent, but it's how we get there, and it's clear that that's how Master said we get there. But bliss is infinite expansion when we identify with God as bliss. But Yoganandaji once said, he said that what he called the divine romance, which he said is the greatest romantic story ever told. He said these movies that talk about romance and this huge drama of couple coming together and then being separated and all this angst and drama and story, and then finally at the end they come back together. He said that's nothing compared to the divine romance, which takes many, many thousands, maybe a million lifetimes of the devotee and God. And he said very interestingly that even advanced yogis might spend several lifetimes enjoying that romance and enjoying that love relationship with God before melting and merging back into bliss. And it's inevitable that once you reach that point of deep devotional love, that yearning is what brings us that, and yoga practice, the way Yoganandaji put it, is what gives us that experience of union with divine bliss. And so the way there is through devotional and heartfelt bhakti, devotion, yoga meditation, which depersonalizes it or makes it more identified with stillness and bliss. And it's a combination of those two together. Now the way we get there then, if, as Master said, it's through the yoga practice and devotional bhakti, how do we develop that yearning and that intense yearning? Because if we can develop that intense yearning, that will make us reach the goal much, much more quickly. The way that we get there is just through satsang, through chanting, through being with other people who are yearning and deeply yearning. One of the joys of being in Ananda village in California is that whenever you're going through a real dry spell, spiritually, which is inevitable. Until we become one with God, there's bumps on the road, there's dry spells. But any time that you're in a dry spell, because there are 200 people living there, and at least 50 of them have been yogis for the last 40 years or so, and there are new people with this new yearning and aspiration, you can always find someone who's in that very moment in a deep state of devotional yearning. And you just kind of go up near them and hang out with them and get close to their magnetism and get uplifted in it. So that's one way to do this. And that's, again, it's the power of a center like this. It's the power of satsang. But the other way is just to remember something, that we are not separate from that. We are one with that. There was a Christian saint that Swami Kriyanandaji often quoted. He was a priest in France, the Curé d'Ars. And he said, if you knew how much God loved you, you would die of joy or bliss. And here he is again, tying devotion and bliss together. If you understood and knew divine love, then you would experience divine bliss. It's just almost mathematical. I liken this to, I don't know computer programming, but I understand a lot of programming are if-then statements. And so the background behind even a word program, if you hit the letter A on the keyboard, then an A shows up on your screen and gets printed when you print it. It's that mathematical. It's an if-then statement written in programming language. And this is the ultimate programming language. If you knew how much God loved you, if you tuned into that love, meditated on that love, started to practice or experience it, then you would die of divine bliss. You would become one with divine bliss. And so this is the way that the Great One gave us. And let's keep trying to remember that we are not separate from divine bliss. We're already one with it. One of the greatest sort of definitions of the spiritual path that Yoganandaji gave was his definition of self-realization. And the way he put it was that self-realization is the knowing in all parts of body, mind, and soul that I am in possession of the kingdom of God. I need not pray that it come to me, for God's omnipresence is my omnipresence. All I need is to improve my knowing. And a good part of that improving our knowing is just remembering. For many years at Ananda Village, I had on my refrigerator in my house, because on your refrigerator you put things that you want to remember, that you're going to forget. You know, it's a shopping list, or I need to buy this, or I need to do that. At least in America, people maybe don't do it here as much, but refrigerator is sort of your memory bank in a way. And I had a quote on my refrigerator for many, many years about the goal of becoming a Jivanmukta, and the reality of it, the possibility of it. Because again, we keep forgetting. We are so stupid sometimes. The fact that we knew it, we've had an experience of bliss, we hear it every single satsang at some point, that we are one with bliss, our readings, our affirmations. Then we go back home, and something happens. Karma comes out, someone makes us upset, we go to the office, the stressful environment, and we forget. And we forget all day, we forget all week, or maybe for a few hours. And so, again, coming back to what we said at the beginning, keep the goal ever in front of us. Remember that we are already divine bliss. We just need to improve our knowing. And again, have that poem samadhi out somewhere. Put it on a refrigerator or wherever you want to put it, that you'll see it and remember it. Because if you keep that goal before you throughout this life, you'll find, as I think everybody I've known who has done these things with Ananda Sangha over 10, 20, 30, 40 years, if you keep the goal in front of you all the time, it gets closer and closer and closer till the end of life. You will find that you have very deep and profound experiences of it. Even people, or quote, ordinary people, who have all the karmas and the fears and all the problems that just everybody has. But if you just get that yes but principle out of your mind and say, I can do it, you will find that you can make extraordinary progress in this lifetime. So let's keep that goal in front of us, but also keep the possibility in front of us that yes, I can do this. And with the grace of God, with the help of our gurus, they will take us very far, as we have seen. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.